today. I know I did hear from our DOH friends that they might not be able to join me, but they provided a couple of small changes, which I'll walk through quickly with you in case any of them are an issue. But otherwise, it's my goal today to move us to a final draft. And actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have to turn around our draft to the larger commission this Wednesday, and then it will be reviewed by the full commission or discussed at the next meeting, which is on the 5th. So hence why we moved our meeting, which was scheduled for the 30th, back to today. So we had time to just review any last minute issues or changes. Oh, good. Randy's here. And make sure as many people as possible are on board with it. Given the small turnout today, I will send just a final email with the final draft to everybody. My email that went out on Monday, which I hope you all got, said, hey, if you have any red flag issues that are going to prevent you from responding, to let me know by today. And I got a couple of minor tweaks from Randy, which I've incorporated, as I noted, and we'll go over. When Will, I got your change on that. Thank you for that correction on your name. So we'll walk through. Sam, you said you had a couple other things, and I'll see, Marcia or Will, if you have anything else to add. Otherwise, I'll submit our draft with any minor edits we make today to Ashley and Cameron, anybody else, so that we can move the process along. Ashley, correct me if I'm wrong. I think what we're supposed to submit is a final draft, but we may get feedback from the commission. Is that correct?
So yeah, we would like this draft as close to complete as possible, but over the next few months, edits can be made, of course.
Okay. So if we have to meet again, we can do that. But otherwise, I feel like at this point we're fine tuning things, or to Sam's point, adding clarifications about data points, that there's not anything. I haven't heard anything major from anybody that folks have a concern about. So I'm hopeful that if we do have to meet again, it will be iron out anything different that comes up from the commission. Anybody have any questions about the process or the timing and where we are now, just so I know everyone's clear? Okay. So the only changes I've made, and what I have in front of me here, what I'm sharing with you all, is the clean draft that I circulated to you last week, with a couple of minor edits that I made that Randy and the Department of Housing folks sent in. I'm going to walk through those quickly with you and just ask if there's anything else. Sam, you had a couple. So I fixed Will's, Will works for Elm City Communities and the Housing Authority. So we had City of New Haven on here. So I updated that. If you see your name on here and you would like it to look different or to have a different title or organization after it, let me know.
I usually go by Samuel in writing, in written things. So just, UEO.
Got it. All right. That's easy. All right. And the changes I made, now that we have Randy on, I will walk through those. She identified 2 typos, which I have fixed. We had an 8-27T, which should have been 8-37. And I had another reference to biennial plan, and we had moved that to 5 years. So I changed that. So the one change that our DOH friends made, and Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, I'll let you clarify if you want. In the section that talks about municipal targets for housing production, she requested that they be goals, and that it's a slightly softer word. I personally would prefer targets, as you all know, but this is where we get into like the compromising and getting to a place where everyone agrees. So I've posted here in the opening paragraph on tailoring plans to community about setting measurable goals. I think Randy's concern was whether DOH would be able to enforce targets, specific targets, and that goals was a sort of better way of identifying that without putting authority on the Department of Housing that they don't currently have. Randy, is that correct?
Yeah, I think that is, but the other concern that was expressed by staff was that, if there were a target in a document like this, it could be perceived or considered to be an unfunded mandate
Yeah.
for
okay.
the municipality, and that's something that the department can't support. So we just
Yeah.
wanted to make it so that, there wasn't gonna be anything that down the road we couldn't support.
Right. And we know too, that's a lot of conversation around housing and how we set goals and targets for towns while knowing that the actual amount of subsidy, affordable housing subsidy is quite limited in the state, and we can only build so many subsidized units or subsidized units with vouchers per year. So if anybody has any issue with that, the 4 folks of you that I have on the phone, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, I'll leave that as Randy's requested. Okay. Sam, Marcia, Randy, Will, anything else you want to add for the good of the order?
Sure. So in section Roman numeral 3, we talk about the problem, and thank you for the clarifications there and explaining about how the focus on low income and very extremely low income households. One thing that is a little confusing is, and this is really confusing, is the whole issue of affordable housing, is what is the definition of affordable housing? And when we talk about 830G, the definition is 60 and 80% of median income. Yet in the problem identification, we're talking about households that are making far less than 60 or 80% of median at times. And so I think at some place after this problem identification, I think we need to explain that that there are many definitions of affordable housing, or that some of the definitions don't necessarily meet the problem, or some sort of, because later on in the document we talk about affordable housing, but if we're talking about let's say zoning for affordable housing under 830G, you might be only talking about 80% of median, which doesn't do anything for people in extremely low income. And so
yeah, I'm trying to think of how to.
And maybe it's as simple as a very short paragraph that explains that affordable housing, there's no one definition of affordable housing in Connecticut, or that there are multiple definitions of affordable housing, and that the reader of the document should understand that 830G has one definition of what affordable housing is, but when we're talking about the extremely low income, even the definition in 830G doesn't provide cheap enough housing for them.
So I think it's important to clarify, Sam. So 830G just provides a type of unit that counts for that particular statute, right? I think generally, but Will and others feel free to jump in. Generally, affordable housing and the different financing programs we have for affordable housing are targeted towards folks making 80% of area median income and below. There are a few that go up to 100, but 80% below is the general. The resources are targeted to that. Some are targeted lower within that block. Some go up to that 80%. Most are flexible within that, but that's the general standard that I think National Income Housing and others use. So I don't know if that's helpful. The reason this focuses on the extremely low income is because we know that's where we have the deepest need. So I could put a sentence that says, generally most affordable housing financing and definitions, cite affordable housing as housing that's affordable to folks at 80% of the area median income and below. And then talk about, but the need here in Connecticut it falls most heavily on the ELI households. Would that be helpful?
I think so. So when we did our the affordable housing plans for our towns and talked about our regional housing plan, what we realized is that the housing, when a lot of people, they talk about affordable housing, but there's no but they stick to 80%. Really, our need is for those people making $30,000 a year, $35,000, and 80% in it may be in the high 70s per year, and so just some clarification about when we talk about affordable housing, it's affordable housing definition is about under 80, but really we have these very low income households that even what's called affordable may not be affordable. I just wanted some clarification of that problem because.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could, there's a lot of discussion about with bills on affordable housing. And if all we build is 80% of median income housing, it doesn't solve this problem. And that's really, I just
Okay.
wanted to sort of clarify that, we're talking about a wide band when we talk about affordable housing, and the width of that band, it doesn't really help out the people who are struggling the most.
Okay. All right, I am going to.
Yeah, I think a clarification like that is important because we almost need a category like very affordable housing or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we call it ELI, extremely low
Yeah.
income. We know the need is much greater down below this 50%. The finance programs target households at 80%. Okay. All right.
I think Will has a comment about that.
Yeah, Will, go ahead.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Like I get why we add that clarification. I do want to make sure though that we're not like saying that it's okay for people at 80% of AMI, because I think in a lot of the state it's really not. And so sure, yes, like the need is more extreme at the lowest end, but that's not to say that we have sufficient housing at 80% or even 100% of AMI in a lot of places.
Yeah, we're talking about Fairfield County in particular. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, like in my region of the state in Lower Connect River Valley, our 830 we have a building that has 80% of median income units, and they had to drop their prices because that was too expensive.
Yeah.
And they couldn't rent them.
Yeah, it's a challenge in LIHTC units too, where sometimes even where you have units targeted at 60% AMI, folks coming in with lower incomes can still be cost burned and even living in subsidized units, which is something, there's actually some federal legislation I think we're talking about now too, or some proposed legislation at the federal level trying to get at that challenge. So okay, anything else?
There is this section that talks about the population growth, our economy growth and the linkage to housing. One comment on that is that we also have a population growth issue. Is that we have a major demographic issue in Connecticut of an aging population and a population that's barely growing. And so there's a sort of a chicken and egg sort of relationship. So these are things that are sort of happening at once. We have an aging population. There's a mismatch in housing. The housing stock we have doesn't match the housing need that is changing. But all that affects our economy, because an economy needs young workers, and so it's all these things, economy, housing, and population are intertwined, and of course younger workers are the people who typically have children that are the future workers. So it's all intertwined, and they need housing.
Okay, I'll try to come up with some more artful language on that, Sam, and I'll try to send this out. Well, I have to submit on the 30th. I'll try to come up with some good language, and if you don't like it,
it's really just a sentence. And then there was one other comment about how I think we're 48th for housing production in the country. Well, part of that is that we're 46th in population growth. So we're not growing, and these things are interconnected.
right? It's a chicken and an egg thing.
Yeah, our economy is not growing, our population is not growing. We're also not producing the housing. There's a demand issue, but there's also a supply issue, and it's interconnected. That was more just an aside. It doesn't really need an edit, but when I read that, I said, yeah, we grew the smallest of any state that grew in between 2010 and 2020, 3 states shrank. We were number 4, the 4th from the bottom. So yeah, so I think but that was just an aside. It
I
doesn't
added this paragraph at the end, which was intended to address the point you brought up in your comments, Sam, about talking about the aging population and downsizing. But I also had that first sentence in the shortage of housing supply is affecting the state's ability to grow economically. But I can add that further if you want.
Yeah, and it's intertwined with our population and demographic trends. So great, and I think and those were really my 2 comments.
You said you had a typo too. If you
I think there was an effect with an A that should have been an E. I think Word underlined it. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, let me see.
I'll look through and see if I can find it.
Let me find it. Yeah, that was.
I'm going to go through and do some last minute cleanup. Thanks to Randy too, who caught a couple.
On page 5, on the 2 paragraphs up from Roman numeral 4, there's an effect with an A that looks like Word wants it to be an E. Yep, scroll up just a little bit. Yep, right there. Effects has it. I think that's correct.
I think that is correct.
That is correct. Yeah, Word is wrong. Okay, yeah. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Try to make sure I double check that one. That's an easy grammatical trap fall into. Okay, and Will, we added in your language to Caper. Thank you for that. And I got some additional language from Rebecca, from OPM, which we included in here too. So I feel like we've got our feel like it's pretty well fleshed out at this point. Anything else that Marcia you had, or Ashley, Cameron, anything else you wanted us to be aware of? Well, I thank the 3 of you, Will, Sam, and Marcia, and Randy, the 4 of you, for showing up today to help finalize this. I don't know if this is our last meeting or not. If we get further feedback from the commission, we may meet again. But if we don't, I'll send out an email thanking you all. But thank you, the 4 of you, not only for showing up today, but for participating in this process throughout the better part of the last year. We've had some good conversations, some challenging conversations. I think we ended up with some good, solid recommendations, and I'm curious to read the rest of the reports too, as those trickle out. I think there will be some interconnectedness between them, but thank you everybody for your time. Thanks for those of you, especially Will, Sam, Randy, and others who submitted comments and data and citations and text throughout the process. That was really helpful, and Kaylee and I appreciate it. If you see Kaylee around, also thank her. She's leaving the partnership later this week. She's been with us for 6 years, and she's moving on to an awesome new job at Wesleyan. So we're excited for her. But even though she's not here, I just want to thank her because she did a fantastic job of helping me. It needed her lawyerly eye on many occasions, and she did a really great job. So. All right, everyone. Well, so I will share with you all the final draft that I send to the commission, and then we'll wait to see if we get additional feedback and that requires another meeting. But thank you again for your time today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your work on this, Kylie.
Thank you, Kylie.
Pleasure. Thanks, everyone.